Hello again, everyone. It is a great pleasure to introduce the next group of speakers for our next session, Navigating the Present and Future of IBs in South Africa. Joining us once more on stage is Hormoz Faryar, Managing Director at ATFX Connect MENA, who will introduce his panel. Let's give them all a warm welcome.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining the IB panel. My name is Hormoz from ATFX. I'm based in Dubai office, and today's IB panel is actually mostly from ATFX. So I'm going to let the guys introduce themselves. There's one person who's not from ATFX. You'll figure it out. I'll start with you, Linton.
So my name's Linton White. I'm the regional head for ATFX Africa. I've been in the financial services industry for around 15 years, and I've been tasked with spearheading the expansion of ATFX throughout Africa.
Monty.
Good day all, I'm Monty Barnard. I'm the Chief Operations Officer of ATFX Africa. We're very privileged to be part of the ATFX team, becoming part of the team last year, November, and excited to see what we can do this year and next year and all following years thereafter.
Thank you, Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark Wurr. I'm Commercial Director for ATFX Africa, and I look after the ATFX Connect side, which is the more institutional side. But still, we're involved in IB business, so I think relevant on the panel.
Thank you. And Rory.
My name is Dr. Rory Jean-Jacques. I've been a trader for the last 15 years. I'm an analyst. I'm also an IB with various brokers, and I also provide education and various forms of fund management for boutique clients. And looking forward to giving feedback on the IB space.
Great, thank you. So this panel is about 35 minutes or so. So we got some time for questions from the audience afterwards. But I've prepared some questions myself. And the first one, Linton, what is the situation here in South Africa? What's the regulation for IBs? Is there regulation for IBs? What's the story there?
Yeah, so let's start off with the big ones first, eh? South Africa definitely has regulation in place for IBs. I think the enforcement of that regulation hasn't really come to light as yet. So in other words, there's a lot of sort of common understanding in terms of operating as an IB in South Africa that is sort of taken as general knowledge as being correct, supplying trading signals and using copy trading platforms and things like that without the correct licensing. But in actual fact, that's not really the case. It's not allowed, but it hasn't been really actively enforced yet. So from a regulatory perspective on IBs, there are regulations that apply in terms of how they operate, how they market, what information needs to be on their marketing material, as well as disclaimers and things like that, but also the licensing side. A lot of IBs in South Africa actually provide financial advice in terms of what the regulation defines as advice. And we find that although there has been an uptick in movement towards regulation being more strict and being controlled tighter, if I can say it that way, at this point in time there's a general understanding amongst IBs that if they have certain disclaimers in place and things in place, that it doesn't actually really affect them. And I think it's very important that we highlight that going forward, and that we can help the IBs get themselves into a position where they are actually within the regulation when they work.
Okay, great. I'm going to jump to Rory, actually. You said, you guys are an IB. So is regulation-wise, is there a license for IB? There isn't, right?
In terms of the FSC regulation, there should be licensing, and I know that they are in process with regulating it. I think there's a lot of IBs that come into the market that act like absolute cowboys, and that is a risk. I think the regulation is what's needed. I think it's healthy. A lot of IB agreements that also have P&L agreements, it's a massive conflict of interest. If I'm providing financial advice as a trading signal and I share in a profit and loss in various IB agreements, especially with OTC agreements, if there's massive losses on that, I'm sharing in those losses. That's a conflict of interest. So how is that regulated? How is that controlled? How does that protect the average retail trader who in South Africa, with the current mentality of trading, there's a fine line between trading and gambling, fine line between, you know, going full margin on trades. And I really think when the IBs are giving financial advice, that's another side that needs to be regulated. I think it's important going forward, and I really, really think that the industry needs to do a lot more. I know that ATFX has got a plan going forward with that.
Yeah.
I think just to add to that as well, it's like there's, you know, from the regulation side, it's one thing to know that the regulation's in place, and it's another thing to enforce it. The sheer volume of people that operate in this space make it an absolute challenge, and I understand completely. I think it must be a real nightmare to try and regulate that and to really enforce the regulation. So it comes down to, in my opinion, comes down to a broader type of education that we need to provide to the IBs. You know, maybe more onus falls on the broker to provide that, rather than relying on the FSCA and relying on the regulation to perform that role. It really needs to become part of something that the brokers put first and foremost in part of their business plan with the IBs.
Yeah, Mark, anything to add on the IB and regulation?
Yeah, I mean, if an IB is giving advice, say copy trading or something like that, he should have a Cat 1 FSP. And, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a secondary Cat 1 FSP, and then all the IBs going underneath that, and then the regulators can, you know, analyze what's being done and make sure that it's all kept in check. But, you know, what exactly do we want to stop the IBs from doing? We want to stop them from making false promises, giving bad advice. You know, it's all basic stuff which the broker, in a way, can police himself. I mean, with us, if a IB was giving bad advice, we're gonna warn him, and we're gonna stop it. So, you know, a lot of it does depend on the broker.
Which is a different story than other regulators. Maybe FCA in London does it differently. Monty, anything to add on?
Yes, I think I'll just add what Mark and Linton mentioned, is that until the FSCA has put those regulations in place, it's our responsibility as the licensed entities or ODPs or FSPs to guide these guys in the right direction. And not only in terms of helping them with their marketing, showing them what the right words are to use on that marketing, but also from a contractual point of view. You have to clearly state what they can and can't do, and if they're in breach of one of those, you need to act upon it. So that's what I would say is what we've been doing, and it's been very effective.
Yeah, Rory, yes, anything to add on that?
I think a structured approach and a systemized approach as to what you can do and you can't do. I think a lot of the signal providers or IBs won't necessarily have the know-how with which to follow regulations, so they will rely on the brokers to help them with that. But to be able to fall under the broker on their Cat 1 license or on their Cat 2 license with a structured approach of this is what you do according to the service level agreement, this is how you provide advice, this is how you don't provide it. If you deviate from that, your IB is cancelled. So you know.
Yeah, but this is putting the policing up to the brokers, you mean?
The FSCA doesn't have the ability to police 10,000 traders that are all running IBs and providing signals. They'll pick a couple of them and say your wording is incorrect. You're providing a trading signal for a stock or for a commodity. This is advice. We can fine you. But how do they police that? I think it's up to the brokers to police that through penalties on your IB agreement if it is not followed. And possibly maybe it's the regulators should also be enforcing that with the brokers.
Which is the case in most other markets, actually.
Yes.
But Linton, what is the FSCA's sort of expectations, or what do you think is, what are they working on? Do we know? Like, on this. What's their thoughts on IBs, the regulator?
So there was a recent interview, and obviously that sparked a lot of this conversation and a lot of questions and answers that have been asked in our space recently between MoneyWeb and the FSCA, which highlighted, the two issues that we're speaking of, or three issues. It's giving advice, it's using copy trading platforms to trade on behalf of clients, it's MAMs and PAMs and things like that that fall outside of regulation. And I think the gist of that conversation and what we're understanding from that is that the FSCA is starting to take a closer look at these individuals. And they're going to be applying sort of stricter rules to it. Like I know personally of a couple of very influential IBs who have come to me and said, listen, we need to find a different solution to provide our products. We need to understand the framework a bit better. How can we sit with you around a table and figure it out? Because the regulator has actually contacted them, has sent them an email and said, look, we're in a situation where you're not sticking to the regulation. And so they are proactively working on it. And I think it just comes down to the enforcement thereof and the sheer number of IBs. But I do want to stress one thing. While we're making this all sound like doom and gloom for the IBs, there are ways.
Hope.
There's hope. There are ways to do it correctly. There are ways to build a business with a reputable brand like ATFX that will help you navigate all of these circumstances and help you to be a successful IB going forward. It's not necessarily saying, like, the IB market's done, the game's over. It's like there's just new rules, there's new regulations. We've got to apply them to our business in order to make sure that we comply with regulation, firstly. And obviously, we've got reputational things with the broker that we've got to look after. So we've got to work with the IBs to do that and make sure that we protect our brand, but at the same time, help the IB build a successful business within the realm of regulation and what is acceptable.
Rory?
I think a lot of traders, because of the influence that they have and the celebrity status that comes with being a trader, it's very easy for them to push a broker and build a big book. And as a result of that, it's a good additional income stream over and above providing signals, education, or some form of copy trading. I think what will go a long way is, and I know that there's been talk about this with the FSCA, is that if you provide signals, you have to be approved, an approved signal provider. I've seen signal providers that have large IB books, and I've followed all of their signals, 8 out of 10 are loss. How are you allowed to do that? How are people allowed to trade like that? And that makes me angry because people are putting hard money, they're trying to survive, they're getting this, but the guy's still posting profits. So he's going long on the one trade, short on the other trade, posting profits. You followed his advice, his signal, you wiped out, you're under his IBs, collecting all of that money. So the talk needs to be, you need to almost be approved to be an advice. And if the brokers can provide a platform to support the IBs within that, i.e. you can fall under our Cat 1 license, under some arrangement, under particular, and we monitor what you do and how you do. This is the format with which you do it. I think it'll bring a lot of safety to a lot of people's funds that are trading on leverage or excessive leverage.
Excellent. Monty, anything to add on that? The FSCA?
Yeah, I think I would add that I think for a long time, the priority for IBs were to find the best deal, the one that's paying the most. And that there's going to need to be a mind shift. You're going to have to go find the broker that's going to give you longevity. He's going to stand by you, help you, so that you still have a business in 2 years. That's going to become the priority, not the guy who's paying you ridiculous amounts of money per contract. So that's all I would add.
Yeah. Mark, on the FSCA, you covered it pretty much, right? So I'm going to jump on another question, Mark. So generally, FX and CFDs, that's growing in South Africa, right? I mean, that's growing. And the question is it the fastest growing country in the region, or is it difficult to judge? FX, CFDs?
CFDs are definitely coming down in volume. But what's coming up in volume are more the golds and the energies, the things where there's lots of volatility and the spreads are narrow. Whereas you're trading the stocks, they close at 5 o'clock at night, open at 9 in the morning. You know, people are moving away from that. So
These
and
are
on
the
the
stock
forex side,
the local stock
local
CFDs.
stocks, yeah.
Local stock CFDs, less, more of the usual like gold, oil.
Gold, oil. Now the rand started to get volatile again. The rand's a favorite when it's very volatile. But I think that the gold, especially, is picking up in enormously. I've never seen it this popular. Well, obviously because it's on such a charge.
Because ATFX is so good at it as well. Maybe that's why you've
Apparently
seen that.
so.
Maybe. Yeah. Rory. Which regions are you covering? Different regions, or you're only here?
So South Africa, yes, I've watched over the last 10 years a massive saturation in the market. A lot of international brokers have come into the space. We've had a lot of local brokers that have come in and absolutely blown up in the space. And just as quickly as they blow up, they literally blew up. The FSC came in and shut them down. There have been a few instances of that, so not following what they need to on regulation. So I think the international brokers bring more of a credibility, bigger liquidity to get the proper ODP licenses. South Africa is still growing. It's quite amazing to see the shift in how traders are changing their lives. I've always said that trading is probably one of the easiest ways for someone to uplift themselves out of poverty. If they follow the right education and they follow the right signals and they learn and they follow it, it's a few thousand rand in an account can absolutely change your life. South Africa is growing, but I think other markets up in North Africa, Kenya, Nigeria is absolutely massive. So we've had a lot of additional focus up in Africa. Europe, not so much, but and America obviously is very, very difficult. There needs to be particular regulation, and they have leverage challenges. The same within Europe. So I think Africa is the next frontier. But in terms of South Africa, it's growing, but not comparably to the rest of the other big African countries.
Excellent. Okay. Anything else to add on the Africa story, Linton? Maybe you've seen anything else? Any other regions that you find?
Yeah, look, I think, it comes back down to the demographics again of South Africa. So, the median age, I think I mentioned this in the previous panel as well. The median age for South Africans is 20 years old. Not South Africans, Africans, is 20 years old. And if you compare that to other regions, there's a very big age gap there. So we do find a lot lower volume in terms of, or not volume, let's say a lower value in terms of FTDs, first-time deposits. But we find that there's a lot of transactions taking place. So there's a very broad number of people taking part in this in the products that we provide. There's a lot of them, maybe the smaller number of FTDs or a smaller amount of FTDs, but it's a very, very widely traded product, especially Nigeria. Kenya's obviously got a very good regulatory system as well. And there's a lot of upcoming sort of activity there. I think they're very well established. And I think that we're going to see quite a move through Africa, sort of Tanzania, that kind of area as well, pretty soon.
Rory?
I think I just want to touch on what you were saying. The median age group, if you look at it, 20 years old, the youth of South Africa, that's a testament to the challenges of finding employment and becoming self-employed. So I think as a focus on that and how, they don't necessarily have access to large amounts of capital and the deposits are on a smaller scale because someone that's more established in their 30s or their 40s has got a larger amount of capital. But in that stage, what a lot of the celebrity traders are doing is they're inspiring a whole new generation to come up through the ranks. So I think sustainably going forward, it's going to be really it's a way out. It's a way out of the doldrums.
Excellent. Rory, I want to continue with you, since you're an IB essentially. What are the scenarios that are kind of scary or difficult to manage for IBs? What would be a scenario that you wouldn't want to be in, or any other IB, or something that you've seen maybe before or you would think about, or scary scenario?
I think what scares me is if you've built a big book with an IB and your traders are trading, you're providing signals, and the FSCA comes along and says, listen, you can't do this, we're going to fine you X amount, you're providing advice, or the structure of the way IBs have been working change. As an income source that we rely on that side, it becomes scary for us because
Regulatory change.
regulatory change is scary, and for me, I take it from an approach of not necessarily scared. This is where it's going. How do we comply? How do I comply? Who do I align myself with? What licensing, additional licensing do we require? If we're already sitting on a Cat 2 here or a Cat 1, how is it going to be changing in the structure? Will there no longer be profit and loss, which makes sense? Will it only be on spreads? How is copy trading going to work? So all my clients that want to put funds in on copy trading and that are using that as an alternative way to grow their portfolio, separate from things, which sits in a gray area at the moment in terms of licensing. You know, it should be Cat 2 because you're managing, but they are making the choice to attach their account to yours and follow it according to the risk management. So all of those clients are going to be, how do we do this? So for me, it comes on my responsibility to make sure that I do what I need to for my clients that rely on my education or on our copy trading.
That's why you're proposing more regulation, because that would give you more certainty.
It would actually give me more security. I'm actually very, very happy with what is the regulatory structure. And if I feel like it's going that way, what do I do? How do I align myself with an additional Cat 1 and on top of that additional Cat 2? And how much is that going to cost me? And will my broker be able to help me with that?
Yeah.
Do you have a Cat 1?
Not at the moment, no.
But if you applied for one, what you do, I reckon you could probably get one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
they could-
Mark will give you advice outside here, and we'll charge you. We'll send you the bill.
leave me out of it.
50-50.
But they could have a separate category in the Cat 1 that could deal with IBs.
I think
it would work.
I think that would be a good idea if it was separate specifically for that, specific to it. Because I remember 10 years ago speaking to the FSC, they didn't even know what a CFD was. You know, so I think they've also grown to a large extent as to, and that was the Wild West with what brokers were doing in the country.
Back then it was new. So what's been your experience with these guys here at ATFX Africa?
Extremely professional, great execution. So it's nice to have a liquidity provider that has such deep liquidity and has multiple liquidity providers. So yeah, I'm looking forward to
Deep
growing
liquidity,
with
deep pockets, deep brains.
deep pockets, but also
Looks.
execution without slippage.
Yeah.
You got some points there.
So I just wanted to ask about technical solutions for lead generation. What's out there for lead generators from what we can provide or what they can get access to for lead generation?
When you say technical solutions,
Or like payment solutions, various kind of solutions needed.
yes, I think that's an interesting conversation as well. There's obviously a lot of different payment solutions out there with various providers. And I think that you've got to make a decision, you know, whether or not you, personally I prefer to use a sort of a direct setup with each provider, but you also get sort of multiple gateways in with one provider. And for me, those technical solutions work better when it's direct. If you have one that goes down, you don't have an issue with the rest, so on. But I think getting back to the lead providers, that's obviously the way that right now that the FSCA wants us to go forward with doing business, right? So rather than being referred to as an introducing broker, which maybe gives sort of the wrong impression as well, you know, maybe refer to a lead generator, change the agreement slightly in terms of the terms that make it more of an affiliate type program where you're really generating leads and you're passing it on to the broker and they work in the client, rather than the alternative where the IB actually works all the clients and the broker sort of just manages it in the background. These are all things that we're busy sort of working on and sitting around a table and designing as a team. It's not something that can be put together overnight, especially with, you know, the fact that a lot of these things are recent changes and obviously recent regulatory impact. And we've got to we've got to navigate our way around it as best we can as the broker, and then help the IBs in terms of the technical solutions and also the non-technical solutions in order to make their business work.
Yeah. How about you guys, Rory? Do you deploy technology or certain solutions for payments, withdrawals, anything that you guys are looking for?
So as a trader or as an IB is your ability to track your volume in real time. So what has been happening today, you can see as those lots have been happening, that is what that commission was credited to, however long it takes, a day or two. But as traders, we want to have the quickest ability to do deposits through multiple platforms with no issues. That's through whether it's through crypto or card or OZO or instant EFT. And we want to be able to, when we make our withdrawals, to have same day withdrawals with no issues. Okay. If everything can also be in an app, the app makes a difference. You can see everything within the app. You can do withdrawals, changing leverage, the ability to change leverage on the fly, the ability to fix leverage on various accounts. These are the things that traders look for. In terms of trading conditions, no off quotes, instant execution, no slippage during news.
Wow, that's a wish list, huh? That's a long wish list. Technical support, 24 hours. We have that,
24-hour support. What are you going to help me with 24 hours when I
can give you more
busy
lists of
nursing
things.
trades during the Asian session? So those are the things that I found the most important. No massive widening spreads during the Asian session. Spreads must stay the same. I've just watched brokers manipulate price feeds and do so many weird and wonderful things over the years to just collect all that money from us traders, because we're already fighting a difficult battle when it comes to psychology. You don't want to be fighting against your broker as well.
Yeah. Maybe, Mark, do you want to add something
Yeah,
to
I
the
mean,
payments?
it's the end of the scam brokers, right? It's time they move off, and I think that's what the ODP originally tried to do.
Yeah.
It's taken a long time, but there's a lot of guys that are still trading in our space without an ODP license, and none of that does us any good. And I would definitely advise an IB to go with somebody who's got an ODP license, and generally they're not the scam guys.
Okay, interesting. Rory, are there many companies, new companies, entering South Africa even now? Or do you see any big entrants that are approaching IBs? And
Yes, one of the biggest is ATFX. They're definitely making noise in the market, but I've seen over the years the likes of Pepperstone, IC Markets, INFX came into the market. XNES has obviously made a big splash. From that space, they look at, a lot of the international brokers are looking at the numbers and the volume in terms of South Africa, and it's quite impressive compared to other countries. It's unbelievably impressive, and that shows you the mentality and also how traders have created this amazing aura around what trading is. Fast cars, fast money, popping bottles, high stakes leverage, high stakes gambling, which is great. It creates a lot of noise and you get a lot of deposits, but you also get a lot of traders donating to it because they're not trading. They've become calculated gamblers. So part of what I try and do is try and educate on the reality of what trading is. This is how you need to follow. There is no other way. You can't go full margin on every trade. You're going to wipe out, continually deposit. Consistent risk management, structured risk management, and you will survive over the long term. So yeah, there are a lot of new entrants into the space, and I think competition is good. It's healthy because it keeps brokers on their toes, and it also leads to a lot of innovation.
Competition's not healthy, is it, Linton? What do you say about the competition?
No,
You're
I
not
think
scared, are you?
No, not at all. Definitely not with a brand like ATFX. No, not scared of the competition. No, I agree. I think competition is a great thing. I think quite often that helps us keep things in check, to make sure that we're not just running a monopoly, So it's good. I like competition.
So I just wanted to last question is, how does the future look like now for lead generation, IBs? Are there going to be more of the IBs as well until there is more regulation? So we're going to see more entrants from outside, from inside South Africa, more IBs and more lead generators coming into the market. What do you expect, Linton?
So I definitely see a move towards a more structured environment for IBs. You know, it'll probably have a different name as well. Maybe we won't call it introducing brokers. Maybe it'll be affiliates or lead generators, like you say. But I do see a big move towards a more structured approach there. And probably more rules and regulations come down to sort of the broker and how they apply that lead generation agreement. It's one thing to get the agreement into place and sign it from both parties. It's another thing to actually administer it to make sure that both parties are keeping to their end of the deal. And I think that that's probably going to be a big move from the regulator side, is to try and help us enforce those contractual obligations more closely. Make sure that that there is a more structured approach to how someone becomes an IB or a lead generator or an affiliate. So definitely a move away from the word IB and more towards the word affiliate or lead gen, and more structured understanding of what it requires and how to work it.
Yeah, I think an evolution away from introducing broker, and that verbiage and that wording is important, and also the role that the introducer or the lead generator plays in relation to the broker, that also avoids a lot of risk and liability for them. So restructuring and an evolution around that, I think, would be a really, really good thing, because the IBs or introducing brokers are a massive form of volume for brokerages, and the leaders that are in trading and providing signals and providing schooling and education, they have their followers, and people want to trade with those particular brokers. It's also important because if you're trading a particular system, you're trading on a particular price. I've seen variances across various brokers of sometimes up to 100 pips on indices. So how can you trade with this broker but follow signals from this broker, following and trading with that particular broker, and they say selling at this price or exiting at this price? It gives the ability to get clean execution. We're all trading at the same price, and we're also profiting at the same price. You're not having variances in spreads, variances in price, because various brokers have got different types of price feeds. So I think an evolution in how IBs work going forward will be a very, very good thing for the industries and for IBs in general.
That sounds so good, Rory. I feel like opening an account with you after this. Anything to add, Monty, Mark?
Yeah, it's a matter of if, not when.
About more.
Yeah, it's coming. I've been involved with the compliance function for so long. It will become more difficult for us to be on the right side of the law. It will become more difficult for the introducing brokers. Things will have to change. And again, I think the word is going to be, they need to look for a broker that can basically incubate them, if I can call it that. You know, someone that can give them longevity in their business, is not only going to pay them top dollar. The change is coming, and the same as everyone was thinking, oh, ODP is not my problem. It became everyone's problem. So, and it always feels like it's a few years away, and before you know it, it's here. So if you're not prepared, I think the guys that aren't preparing for it already will fall to the wayside.
ATFX, we're ready, right?
Well, yeah, that and Rory's long list of requirements, we're ticking them off one by one. So we're getting there.
Anything to add, Mark? Anything else?
Yeah, I think when it comes to IBs, the cream will rise to the top. You know, the guys that are good, honest, genuine, doing the real thing, giving the right advice, hooking up with the right brokers. Those guys are going to be the same guys we see next year. I don't see a whole lot of IBs that I saw last year, this year. So, you know, if you want to stay around, I think just honesty is the best policy.
Okay, I think we're going to have time for a question or two from the audience. Any questions for us on the ATFX side, maybe IB side? We got one question here, one hand, I see.
Irene.
Irene, you know.
You have to call my name. Hi, Linton. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Irene.
Hello, Irene.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, the panelists, for enlightening us a little bit. I do have a question. My question is the regulation. We are all sitting representing financial services providers, which entails that we are reporting institutions and the FSCA are looking very, very hardly on all the financial services providers in South Africa, especially the forex brokers. So my question now lies with the IBs, okay? Because I see a lot of contradictions and a lot of conflict of interest that the Cat 1 licensed forex brokers are the ones fueling, just like Mark say, the bad acts of the IBs. You realize that there's a lot of breaking of regulation rules and a lot of breaking of what is not allowed to be done. Then they are fueling it, okay? And then that comes the conflict of interest that Rory mentioned. So is there any initiative whatsoever from the currently regulated brokers? When I say regulated, I mean the ones that have got Cat 1 and Cat 2 licensed brokers, because most of the ones that are currently around now, they're only Cat 1 license, which is not actually allowing, as per the regulator's view, to be in association with the IBs. Even though there's a lot of gray areas on it, what are the initiatives that you as an ATFX, because I know obviously you have got Cat 2 license, which allows the advising of the clients on what to do with their funds. So what are you guys doing to curb these bad acts from the markets, and what are your responses to the regulators pertaining that?
Do you want to go through the big compliance world that we have in place? We have a massive compliance department.
I think out of all of us sitting here, Monty's the most qualified to answer that question.
Yes, I think there needs to be a clear understanding between Cat 1, Cat 2 and the ODP license. And I can see Mr. Gerard van Deventer is already shaking his head. So correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, so the Category 1 license allows you to basically market the product. Cat 2 is a discretionary license. This will allow you to have discretion with your client's money. You can decide where you invest these funds. Obviously, as per a very strict mandate that the client will sign, which the FSCA will approve beforehand. And then the ODP license obviously sits quite separate to it. And that just allows us to issue or be the principal for the CFD that you are trading with that broker. So for instance, ATFX has an FSP license, which allows them to market the product, but we are also the issuer at the same time as the ODP. And then obviously the Cat 2 is something totally different in terms of the discretion where you can make decisions on behalf of the client. And I think we play a vital role with the FSCA, where there's forums, there's constant talks between us and the regulator. We bring them up to speed with what we see in the market. So there is a lot of information sharing, but I think we've also got to remember that they also have their hands full already with tons of investigations. So these things do take time, and sometimes you need to be patient with them, but I can assure you that we are working with the regulator, and we know them quite well now because you see them often when you're an ODP. We're waiting for our next on-site visit, so there's a lot of information sharing. So these, over time, these things will work it out. I think you used the words once, you said the wheel is turning, but just slowly. So that was your words.
Excellent. Any other questions? One here. Was that here? One? Oh, there's three. Oh, wow.
Hello.
Hello.
I wanted to ask, right, with regarding to the 24-hour, 7 days a week trading thing that Wall Street is trying to incorporate, right? I wanted to know, as a broker, will we be able to make deposits and withdrawals on the weekends if it allows us to trade on weekends, and will our orders be filled accordingly?
Quick one on this.
I think us as a broker would first need to offer those products that are trading over weekends. So you'll look at synthetic products or some crypto products. At the moment, we don't have that. But if we do, there will certainly be people to process with deposits and more than withdrawals. Deposits these days are all automatic. The support will come with that. But at the moment, we're not offering anything over weekends.
One here. Last question, maybe.
Hi, I got a question to Rory. Because the product is called leverage FX, right? The CFDs. definitely leverage play a very crucial role on how you gonna perform. And obviously the market got trends of being over leveraged for the product. Of course, like as an IB, of course you can choose broker here and there to the product or the product offering that help you providing advice to your clients to make them sustainable, long-term profitable instead of gambling, right? So what kind of like leverage do you think is suitable? You know, obviously, what do you mean by over leverage is really a conceptual term. Some people think like 1 to 100 is good. Some people think 1 to 1,000 is good. Some people think like 1 to 5,000 is good. Like, you know what I mean? But this definitely very important to the clients or the IB, that how do they treat this product as a sustainable or correct investment mentality to perform, right?
That's a great question. I think it really depends on what the margin requirements are for various products. So obviously oil and gold will carry, and CFDs, like for example US 30, will have very heavy margin requirements dependent on the broker. So often if we're providing trading advice or trading signals, we're trading multiple instruments at the same time. We're trading gold, we're trading currencies, we're trading US 30. So you don't want to be too limited in leverage that you can't open too many trades. But at the same time, taking a leaf out of the European and American markets and what they've done to protect retail traders is they've lowered the leverage to 20 to 1, 50 to 1. So I think for providers, signal providers, I would be a lot more comfortable if I was providing signal advice that anyone under my IB is not able to trade with more than 50 to 1 leverage. That will protect their accounts. That'll stop them from trying to over leverage. Even lower, even 20 to 30 to 1. If you're risking on smaller risk, this 500 to 1, 1,000 to 1, 2,000 to 1, I love that leverage because I use it to my advantage. Brokers don't like it, but I know how to use that leverage to my advantage, but most of the traders don't. And there's such a fine line between trading and the effect that it has on your dopamine in your brain turning into gambling, that I think if we lowered the margin requirements on that basis, it would create a long-term sustainability and it would teach the right habits. Anything more than 100 to 1 doesn't make sense from my perspective as an IB.
Okay, I think the next question we'll take offline. Now I'm going to go find out who's playing that loud music near the speakers hall. And we're done. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.